Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and my guest today is from Australia. Well, you are from New Zealand, but now you're in Australia.
Yep.
Zach or from otherwise, if you're on TikTok or if you're on Instagram, you probably know Zach as Crochet Zaddy.
Yeah.
How did that name happen?
Oh God. That's the first question. That name, it kind of came out as a joke. So I don't know if you know what the word zaddy means.
No, the tell.
No. So it's like this is also like one of the most embarrassing things. So I originally made the name as a joke, and then it kind of stuck with me forever. But the word zaddy is a play on the word daddy.
Right.
Like,
Well, I was wondering if it was a mixture of Zach and Daddy. That's why I was.
It is. Oh, like that's where it kind of started off. So there was always the you know, people call people like, oh, daddy or something like that, something very flirty and fun. And then this other name Zaddy kind of came around and was being used around as like a younger version. And because my name is Zach Dorr, people was like, I always got called Zach D because there's always another Zach around. And then that sort of blended into Zaddy, and then I kind of just took ownership of the name. And then I chucked it into the crochet name because I needed to make something, and it kind of stuck. And I was like, oh my God, I've been calling myself Crochet Zaddy. And then I was like, I'm too far into this to change. But I'll just run with it.
Like you told me that the way you started crocheting was basically work related, right?
Yes, yeah. So I always knew I liked crafts because I used to do cross stitch with mum when I was about 5 years old, and I just really enjoyed it. And then I kind of just never touched it again. But then one day I was literally walking past like the office kitchen at work, and there was a group of people there in like a little craft club, which I hope I can swear on this, but it's called the Stitch and Bitch Club. And so I went over to them and I was like, oh, what are you making? Like, can you teach me how to do something? And so they invited me in, they showed me like a few crochet techniques, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then one of them gave me a crochet hook and a ball of yarn. And so I went back to my desk and I was sitting there. I should have been working. But I was sitting there and I was like trying to toy with this thing. And then there was a guy in my team and he said to me, he's like, isn't that for women? And I was like, I don't think learning new skills is just for women.
Right.
And then out of his spite of kind of gendering the craft, I grew spiteful and decided to just really hone in on it and continue.
So how did you approach learning it? Because like it's one thing when somebody gives you a hook and a ball of yarn, but like you're on a different level today. So what was that learning process?
So for the first part, I went straight to YouTube, Bella Coco tutorials, and kind of learned most things on there. And then I would show what I was making to that same crafting club at work. And if I had any questions and things, they'll be able to show me or give me any tips. And that was for about 2 years. All I was making was granny squares with the intention of turning it into a blanket. So somewhere back in New Zealand, I've got a bag of granny squares. If anyone wants to make a blanket, they're over there. And it was once we hit the lockdown, the original lockdowns of COVID, I was like, okay, I'm going to finally make an amigurumi doll, because that was my original intention all the way back, because I wanted to make a doll. And so I really committed to it then, and that's when I created Crochet Zaddy as well, to kind of keep myself accountable, and then just kept going. So, and that was from YouTube and the same people with the same job.
So what was the first animal you created?
I actually ended up making my pincushion. I knew I wanted to make something that I could make ugly. And so I was like, well, I may as well make a pincushion because I'm going to be stabbing it anyway. I've actually got it next to me. Oh, I can actually grab it out to you here. This lovely little cactus, Mrs. Prickles.
I love that. That's so cute.
So it's, yeah, not the prettiest thing, but it's the most treasured thing. So yeah, it was a little cactus, but since then it's been, yeah, mainly animals and things.
Right. So like, okay, you start with like just sitting home next to your computer and looking at YouTube and like creating this thing. And then before you know it, you're going viral on TikTok. You're huge on Instagram. Like, how did that happen?
So yeah, when I first started like making myself accountable, that's when I made like the Instagram page. That was the original one. And I just reached out to a bunch of different artists on there, and I was just chatting away to people. Like, I love to just chat. And there was a thing called Amiga to be made. And that is when you do like a showcase every single day, and you put up a post about whatever the theme is of that day, and you talk about it with your creation or something. So for example, it might be plants, and I'll take a picture of my cactus and I'll put it up and talk about why I made this or something like that. Right. Anyway, so I did that the first year, and then by the end of that year, I decided to make a TikTok to see how I could go doing crochet on there. And it was coming around to Amiga to May again, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to do this with videos rather than doing the normal picture posts. So I started doing like themed joke video things to Amiga to May, and that kind of like, because I was posting daily on TikTok, it really started growing, and I was getting positive feedback across the board for both Instagram and TikTok, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep doing this. This seems to be going really well. And from then it just really took off. And then I started doing like the lives, and that's where I really started thriving.
So like, yeah. Do you remember first video on TikTok that went like completely viral without you expecting?
Yeah, it's hard to tell what I would consider viral to what other people would consider viral. So I know Drew from the other chat. So he had like a hippo video that got like 1 million, or even more than 1 million views and things like that. I haven't reached that part yet, but I know there's a lot of other creators out there who would consider getting a few thousand views as being going viral, which is kind of where I started off, which I don't want to like rank people, but it's kind of what I started getting as like an average. There's always a few thousand views on every one of my videos. But you never know which one's going to be popular or not. And my most popular video was one that took me about 5 seconds to film, and I was like, oh, I'll just put that up for the day. And then it got to like the 100,000s or so views, and I was like, that video? Like, that was with, oh my gosh. Like,
well, you have this like super funny approach to your videos. They all basically like jokes. How do you come up with those ideas?
So the way I kind of arrange my content is that I'll be just scrolling through TikTok, and I'll see like ongoing trends that aren't within the crochet area, and I'll make sure I'm following people who are like comedians out there and who are following the trends and just making their own jokes out of it. And then I would take that, and then I would take either a part of being part of the rainbow community, part of being a crocheter, or part of being like from New Zealand or something. One of those three, and I'll somehow make a joke out of it. And I think there's like a few ongoing areas of like the yarn community that everyone relates to, which is like forever buying yarn, always having so many ongoing projects. Like, yeah, there's so many things that we all relate to. So you can kind of put together some jokes around that and watch it go.
So like, was there ever like a video that you spent actually considerable amount of time planning, thinking, filming, and crickets, like nothing happened?
Yeah, there's a few that I've done that for. But there's the ones where I'm doing like I call them my showcase videos, where there'll be like a song, and you can hear in the song that there's like a change that you can do. And so every time the song like gets that beat, I will change and show like another creation that I've made. And those ones take forever, especially when you're trying to lip sync to the words, and you're like, oh my god, like why is this not like fitting together? And it can take you like 2 hours or so, and then you put it up, and it's just the same as something that took 5 seconds as well. So yeah.
You ever get stressed by social media? By like the fact that you have to keep up, you have to think of algorithm, you have to like think of what you're gonna say, what you're gonna post next?
I think there is like a little bit of stress. It depends what like the weight behind it is. Like if I'm wanting to promote something, I really want to make sure it does well. But when you're kind of in that zone, it's hard to plan for, because like the trends online I'm trying to like copy change so quickly. And so that can be a little bit stressful. But then I kind of I go to this like internal battle about not stressing about it, and then making sure that when I'm not stressing about it, I feel like a little bit more powerful, being like, this doesn't own me and all those things. But I do know that that can be quite stressful for a lot of people. And also posting daily, if anyone wants to know how I do it, as I wait till like a Monday day and I will film everything the one day and then just drop it throughout the week, so I don't have to touch or think about it again.
Well, is that your approach to like life in general, like work and then like just push it out and like relax?
I no. I have like my approach to work, like my work value that I hold dearest to my heart is always make time for fun. And so if I'm having fun, then it doesn't feel like work. And so I do always bring on like way too much onto my plate than I can actually handle. But as long as I'm having a laugh and having a good time, then it tends to go all right.
So at what point just crocheting turned into business? Because now you have an Etsy store and you sell your toys. So like, when did you decide to do that and why?
I think that kind of stems from my real life job, is what people tend to call it. I was sitting at my desk day in, day out, and just looking out, and it'd be like sunny outside, and I was like, oh, I wish I was doing something that was a bit more rewarding in a way. And so with the crochet popularity that I've been gaining traction on, I was like, well, I may as well try monetize this in some kind of way. And then I wanted to make it work for me. So rather than just doing like finished products, I really wanted to find other ways around it. So that's why I started doing like a Twitch account, because I know I could get like subscribers, and that like slowly gets you money. And I love doing lives and chatting and things like that. And then also like the patterns and things like that. So I've just been always like trying to scope out the other ways around it. And that's just more to fuel the more rewarding way of my work, like handling my work days and trying to get away from that 9 to 5 and move into a more exciting realm.
Like 12 hours a day.
Yeah, 12 hours a day. I was like, once again, I kind of gathered way too much on my plate, but I'm having way more fun than it was before. So
well, let's talk about like, since you moved, what was your yarn stash looking like, and how much of it did you bring with you to Australia?
So I could have just like left a lot of my yarn in New Zealand. I only moved about 4 or 5 days ago, and the reason why I wanted to bring a lot over with me is because, I mean, I may as well. I mean, I'm not going to buy hundreds of dollars worth of yarn again. But also the access to yarn in both New Zealand and Australia for certain types can be quite difficult. And so there's a lot of this kind of that chunkier blanket yarn, which is the big craze and making amigurumi big plush dolls at the moment. I had a big box of that sent to me in New Zealand. I was like, well, I want to bring this with me. So I don't know if you can actually see that behind me. I've got this like box here and then another one up there, and that's all my yarn that are just smushed into some bags, those giant plasticky picnic bags, and they were very fragile, but whatever. I just got them over the plane and got them here.
I was interviewing Romy Hill. She is a knitwear designer in America, and she lived in an area where they had wildfires, and they had to evacuate the house basically like overnight. And we were talking about like, what do you bring with you during evacuation? So with you moving, it's very similar in a sense.
Yeah.
And you had a little more time to prepare, but like, what did you bring with you? Like, what were you comfortable leaving behind, and what you knew that like has to come with you?
So there was some of my creations, I couldn't bring them all, so I had to bring some of my favorites. Like you can see my Chikorita doll sitting in the background there. That's like one of my absolute favorites. It's a mixture of everything I love, being like Pokemon and queer stuff. But there was some other real iconic ones I wanted to bring along. And then apart from those very select few dolls, the rest of them there's a few really old ones that I wanted just to keep at home in like a memory box. But then everything that's been on my journey in between, I decided to do a flash sale on, which is a terrible idea to do when you're packing because then you're having to do all your orders and all that stuff as well on top of trying to pack your life up and move. But deciding on it, yeah, I just had to be a bit cutthroat.
Well, like, let's talk about the start of the business. So you opened the Etsy store. Mm-hmm. What was the reception? Like, did you immediately sold out?
So it's been a bit of a trial and error with the Etsy store, because the way I've been trying different ways to do it. So when I first started way back when, I did made to orders, and I just had like a few Kiwi dolls and a few, that's what I have on there. There's like a few, I can't remember now. It was a long while ago. And that was right before Christmas, not last year, but the year before. And that was like, there was a little bit of popularity, and I could feel the kind of rush because I was doing my full-time job as well as that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to get through these orders? Like, I was really sacrificing a lot of my social life. And as someone who identifies as a raging extrovert, it was a bit hard. So I decided to put a pause on my Etsy store for a long while until I was in a better space to just really open up again. And so then I did that again for this Christmas. And because I wasn't working, I mean, technically I was because I had my Etsy store. That one, yeah, same kind of thing. I didn't find it too stressful because I did put a cap on how many orders I could take. And the reception I got was quite good. But I soon learned that I much preferred just making things that I wanted to make, and then I'd just sell them. So rather than doing made to orders of the same kind of dolls over and over, I think I would just rather make a bunch of those dolls and see how they go online, which I haven't tried yet. But yeah, doing the made to orders or ready to ship is the other model, is what I'd call it. I just think made to order wasn't for me in the end. It was just a lot of stress and time consuming, but it did give me good insight into what the market actually wanted from me. So now I can kind of shape my future around that.
Was pricing difficult for you to figure out how much to charge for your stuff?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, to get used to the pricing, definitely. Because the only people we can really compare with are those in like the United States or other countries who are doing the same dolls. But you're like the only person in New Zealand, and it's a bit harder to get that yarn. And so you kind of have to like put your prices up to match the material cost. But then you don't want to be like way higher than what they're selling. You want to keep it to market value, but it's a bit much to try to understand, especially as a new seller. And so you kind of get into your groove of doing that. But I think even with any kind of doll that you're selling online or any kind of handmade piece, it's never going to be worth the value that it was put into making it.
Well, do you think like people buy your stuff because of the quality you provide? Or do you think they buy it because they watched your TikTok and they love your personality and you think they want something from you that you made?
I definitely think there's an essence of that involved. I know that I do make quality products, but I do think people prefer to buy them from me because it's me. Which is such a weird thing to say, but I was like, I kind of know who I am, what I carry as a personality, and I think I've seen people do that with other creators online, on TikTok especially, that they kind of just want like a collectible piece from that creator to be like, cool, I've got a piece from Zaddy, or I've got a piece from Drew, and etc. And so they can have their own little collection of their TikTok creators all on their own shelf or something. So
right,
kind of cool.
You think so like each toy that you make has its own personality. Like there is some like the facial expression of the doll, the colors that you choose. Do you feel like they look like you?
I don't know if I would go right down to like the facial expression, but everything I make I definitely have like a thought behind making it, and even to do with those made to order dolls as well. The ones I do put on there, the reason why I put them on there is because I enjoy making them, and that's because they're tied to me. And it's usually because they're like rainbow community themed or something along those lines, or like New Zealand themed, the kiwi birds. And so because I kind of feel that connection to those dolls, then I feel a lot happier making them, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned that guide who asked you, isn't it just for women? Do you get that nowadays? Like, do people say that stuff to you?
I have had people comment, like, you get weirdos in your lives. And I have had people come into my life being like, oh, I thought that was just for women. And I'm like, are you kidding? Someone tried to tell me once that God said that crochet was for women. I was like, it's like, at which point that's so far out of the Bible, and I haven't even read the Bible. But
which page is that on?
Yeah, I was like, where did you relate that? Like, oh my god. But I do, yeah, I don't get like very much direct like comments about that. Sometimes when I'm in a craft store, I get asked who I'm shopping for. I'm like, me. So that happens actually quite commonly. Or people get like a little bit shocked that I'm in the craft store at all.
Do you crochet outside? Like, do you always crochet just sitting home, like doing your thing, or like you go outside and you crochet outside?
It's a lot more comfortable to do at home, but I have taken it to like a park or even the beach if I can dodge the sand. But even when I am outside crocheting, I do get that kind of anxiety that I'll get like looks or something like, or some kind of comments from strangers or things. I don't know. It's a bit weird.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I mean, you just moved, so you probably don't know the answer to that. But do you think like Australia is different in that respect from New Zealand?
Good question. I think it'll be very similar. I haven't experienced too much of the Australian culture, but I know it's very close to New Zealand. And so, yeah, I assume it'll be the same kind of comments, if not more, because there's more of a population here.
Okay. So talk to me about your two best friends that I just interviewed recently as well.
Yeah.
I talked to John, I talked to Drew, and they like, John is a quilter and Drew is also does crochet. Like, what makes you best friends? Like, what do you think unites? Because you're doing different fiber arts in a sense, but like, what unites you?
It was, I can't even remember how we all started. We started like a group chat on Instagram somewhere, and we've just continued doing that. I can't remember why we started it, but I think it's just through those chats that we've had online and like the shared experience of having a bit of a following, that we can talk to each other about it. And it's a very good safe space. Plus we're all queer creators as well. And I think that bonds us as well. Those shared experiences, the shared views on everything, and it just made it a very easy place to talk about things. Yeah. And I think that, definitely that shared experience has created that bond. And over time, it's just grown and grown and grown. And now we just send like memes and things to each other.
I mean, you all also have this dynamic of like everybody making fun of each other, sort of like in the friendliest of ways. Like I saw this one live of yours where you like all imitating each other's accents and what have you.
Yeah. I think we all hold our own kind of identity within our little group as well. Drew and I are always laughing about how blunt John can be, but how it's an admirable kind of blunt. And like how wholesome Drew is, and I don't know where I stand.
I should have asked them about that. Well, when you like think about social media, like when you first decided to go on Instagram and open that account, was that the plan to like find friends from all over the world that do similar kind of things? Like, did you have a plan?
No. The funny thing is that it seems to be a trait of mine is to make things kind of out of spite, and so and so the reason I made the account, one, was to keep myself accountable so I would continue doing the craft. But two, my partner at the time also made a hobby account. And I was like, I want to make something too. And I can do it better. And so I did, and then it was just because everyone in the online community was so kind and everything, the amount of serotonin I was getting from everyone, I was like, I want to keep going with this.
Right.
So there was no intention to really make the best of friends or anything. It was just a bit of fun, but because of everyone being so positive, I really thrived, and I still am. So yeah.
If somebody just like starting today, right? They just got that hook and ball of yarn, and they sitting on YouTube and they watching the instructional video, and they accidentally stumbled here. What would your advice be for them?
There's one thing I always say, and I want to put it onto a t-shirt. I always say commit to the crochet, just because I know it can be difficult when people are starting and you're getting tangled with your yarn tension and your hook, and you're trying to get there, but you just have to commit. And you just have to know that your first project is it's not going to be great. But you're making it for yourself. You're not making it for other people. You're making it so you can actually really hone in on a craft and learn something new. And you just have to appreciate the journey that you're going on. It will get better.
Well, talking about getting better, right? So you started with like that cactus that for some reason you don't think is pretty, but I think it's actually very cute. What's the hardest thing you crochet? Like, what's the most advanced thing you've done?
It's the hardest thing I've crocheted. It normally depends on how many small bitsy things it has, or something like that, or the amount of want that I have to actually crochet it. If I don't really feel the passion behind the project, it will take me way longer, and it's just hard to pick up and really get through it. But I'd say I've actually got it next to me as well. This is probably one of the more technical things I've had to make. It's like this rainbow Medusa.
I love that one.
Yeah, so this one I actually made on my Twitch account, and I got all the followers to comment what they wanted the different colors to be and things like that. And so that's how we kind of came with this whole makeup with like the lolly snakes and all that kind of jazz. So, but this one was also very just technical because it had the small snakes and every single hair strand, the toga and all that. So I don't know if it was technically difficult. It was just very small and fine, and they can hit your hands too.
Right. Well, how do you come up with the ideas like of what you're gonna create next?
I know that it's kind of like when you think of a movie that you want to watch and you add it to the list, but there's no list. You don't remember what movies you've added to that list. I know some people put it on their notes app on their phone. I have like some saved patterns that I know I'll crochet eventually, and I could go to that and just cycle through and be like, oh yeah, I really wanted to make that. But it's usually once I finish a project, that's when I will start thinking, or have a look online to see what else there is. And I'm like, I want to make that. Right. So I'll just start that.
Well, so I watched one of Drew's reels, and he had like this Halloween themed or Halloween themed bees. So he is addicted to bees of every shape and size, and you do bees as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the bees for Halloween with like all different kinds of colors, names. It was like a whole fun sort of reel, right?
Yeah.
When you need something, let's say it's the same toy you already made. Do you ever get bored? Do you want to like do it in different colors, or add a little like funky tail to it, or like make their eyes funny or something? Like, how do you deal with the repeated
that was definitely something I noticed when I was doing the made to orders this last Christmas. There were some dolls that people really just wanted it over and over and over again. And I was like, oh my God, I have to make another one. But it's like as advertised. So I would have to go through the exact same thing again. I was like, I've already done this before. Like, I don't want to do another one. But that was like some certain dolls. But there were some others where people would pick new colors and things. And that was a lot more exciting. One thing I like to do, because I'm from the rainbow community, is that if I am going to be doing repeat makes or something, I love to switch it up with like the different types of pride flags, and kind of incorporate those colors in, and it makes me feel very well, I guess prideful is the word, to represent different marginalized communities and be like, cool, I made this like cute doll, and also it carries a lot of meaning. And yeah, I think that saves me from any kind of boredom of repetition. But if it is the same kind of doll over and over again, I definitely get very tired of it.
Do you have something that you would consider like your heirloom collection that you would like never give away or never sell?
Yeah, so that chikorita in the background definitely is something that was the first time I ever used like a chunky kind of yarn. Yeah, so it's very cute, and I got a lot of compliments on my stitching on it, which was unexpected. So thanks everyone. So this is actually like one of my favorite Pokemon, which is kind of why I wanted to make dolls in the first place. But normally it actually has like all these should be green, but because I always want to give it like the little splash of like the rainbow community, I decided that I would just give that little rainbow flair.
Well, do you think like because you have like a large following on TikTok, on an Instagram, do you feel like you're trying to use those platforms for your cause, like to educate?
Yeah, I definitely have. And I know like, because the main cause that I'm passionate about is like queer rights. And so I know that there's a lot of, what's the word? There's a lot of support for queer creators who are just thriving as themselves. Because when you see that kind of representation in the media, there's like queer kids out there who are finding it challenging coming out or being expressive themselves, when they see someone who's happy-go-lucky and enjoying themselves and having a good time, it makes them feel like, oh, I could be like that too. Right. And so I always want to put my best foot forward of showing that kind of positivity and like casualness about being queer, that I hope other people can resonate with that. So that's why I really want to like keep putting little splashes of it into my content. But going very directly on promoting the causes, I've only done that like a few times when I feel very passionate about it. And that was met with a lot of positivity. So that's cool. I've got the right kind of followers.
Well, do you get any negativity?
I had one person comment on some of my rainbowified Pokemon and said, "Why did you make them gay? They're not gay." And I was like, "Why not?"
This one is.
Might work. Yeah. Go away.
So I saw also a video where the three of you were working with the knitting machines, and
yeah.
And he was teaching you, but somehow his teachers didn't work out for him, whatever he was doing. But you managed. And you also said that you used to cross stitch as a child. Is there like interest in general in any fiber arts? Do you see yourself like, let's say 5 years from now, jumping into completely like quilting, let's say?
Yeah, I am a big fan. I really like cross stitch and embroidery, and I think that's because it's nostalgic for me. And I do really want to bring more embroidery into my content, although I've named myself Crochet Zaddy, so I'm kind of stuck myself with that again. But yeah, I think I'd love to bring more embroidery and those kind of, what do you call it, like fine fiber arts? Who knows? Sure, why not? And then I always think that I'll get into knitting, but I'm always posting content that's like knitting versus crochet on my account. And I'm like, I didn't get told off, but I saw people posting about other people posting the knitting versus crochet things and like, stop being so divisive. I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry.
Like bilingual, you can knit and crochet.
Yeah, you absolutely can.
And it's funny because like most people that I meet actually dabble in like multiple fiber arts. Like you can't, like I was trying to create playlist for my channel, so to make it easier because it's like at this point it's like it's been over 100 interviews, so I wanted to categorize them somehow, so people who have interest in embroidery, let's say, they'll find people who do embroidery. Well, the problem is I interviewed, let's say, designer who he's a knitwear designer who does embroidery on top of knitting. So how do you like, which playlist do you put him in? You know, so
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So some people I just put in multiple playlists, but I also love it because it's sort of like I don't like having to put anybody in one particular box. Like I want to put them in multiple boxes, you know.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you can add them to all the different playlists as well. That would be very confusing.
So what are you working on now? Like what's the plan for 2022?
So I've had a lot of thoughts because I've taken like I called it a holiday, but essentially I was closing up shop for Christmas because I was packing up and moving. And I never gave like a definite end to my holiday. So now that I've actually arrived in Australia, I'm gearing up for another year of just fun content creation. I think I'm leaning more, like I've started taking my content on TikTok to a bit more of a, I don't know what kind of route. I've been calling it chaotic crochet. I've just been making really absurd jokes and things. And I'm like, I don't know if this is going to catch on, but people seem to be enjoying it. So I was like, okay. Although I don't know if it's like as child friendly, but that's whatever. We'll see how it goes. But I think I'm definitely gonna try to bring out more patterns of my own and push myself in that kind of creative direction, as well as do more of that not made to order, no, not for me, ready to ship kind of orders,
right?
And see how that goes. I love just experimenting with it all and seeing how it lands. So I'm gonna definitely keep going that way.
Do you see yourself like designing patterns, like selling patterns more?
Yeah. Absolutely. Especially because coming over here, I didn't really know if I was going to try go like full-time crochet or part-time crochet, part-time job. But now that I've got here, I was kind of like, oh, I might actually just get a job, which doesn't mean I would have all the time in the world when I'm trying to explore and settle into a new country. And I really do enjoy the pattern design. I have a lot of ideas that I actually do have a list of. And I think with the time that I have available, I won't be able to do all those different kind of Etsy drops that people do. But I can definitely do a lot of patterns.
Right. Like if you could delegate part of what you're doing, right? Because you have to like be present on social media, you have to create those toys, you have to take pictures of the toys, you have to wrap the toys, ship the toys, write a thank you note, like all of that stuff. Your one-man show. If you could delegate some tasks to somebody else, what would you delegate?
The management of Etsy. That part, it's all right. It's just not it's just the admin. Like I love the content creation. I don't want to have that taken away from me. I love making the videos, the photos. I love writing my posts. Like every time I do an Instagram post, I always want to make sure I'm telling people the reason why I made something or what I learned from it. And I really feel like I express myself strongly through all that content. But the Etsy stuff, when it's just writing about what the doll has in it and what it is, someone else can do that. Like
the stuffing.
Yeah. I do like writing the cards though. The thank you notes, I don't mind.
Right. Do you like, besides crocheting, besides like fiber arts, are there any other hobbies that you have, like, or any other interests, passions?
Well, that's the kind of thing is like I always feel like crochet or crafts in general always has this idea that you're going to be like the grandma sitting at home on your couch doing the things, but I really want to start bringing in more of what I do in my actual life into the crochet sphere, just to know that like crafting is for anyone. Like I love like exercise and fitness, but I also love going out to town and having a big night out and partying and whatnot. And I was like, those don't have to, like, they don't sound like they would really mix together, but I'm kind of like, you know what, this is me, this is what I enjoy. I love going out with friends and all that jazz, and I really want to bring that into my content somehow and just kind of be my whole self.
You could make like a bodybuilder doll or something. Like if you could do Medusa, you could do the
yeah.
disco dancing Zaddy.
Yeah, I think so. I think because that's what I was meaning before when I was saying that I've kind of brought, like, taken my content into a direction that I don't know if is necessarily for children. I'm like, oh well.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, right? Let's say you wanna make a disco dancing like club Zaddy version.
Yeah.
Would that be like a doll or would that be a bee?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think I don't even know what I would do. I think I'd make an animal of sorts. Yeah, because I know Drew's got his bees, and I know that some people have just kind of known for making a certain type of animal, but I think I would make an animal around the idea. Maybe like a bunny. I don't know.
Hopping bunny.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I follow this one account on Instagram, and this lady makes these miniature amigurumi dolls, and she makes them from like every country. So there's like a Mexican looking dolls, like in the original like Mexican dress and like dancing band and whatever. And they like literally that tiny. They're like, and then Drew was talking about some pillow that he made that was like basically the size of him, and he's a big guy, as mentioned. What's your preference? Like, do you prefer to work on tiny stuff, on really large things? Like, what's more interesting for you?
So that's the thing, is like, because of the limited access to these kind of chunkier yarns, like this took me so long to actually get any of this yarn in New Zealand, and if I found any, I'd have like 2 colors. Like, what can I make with that? I had like white and like a seashell kind of color. It's like, okay. So I'm much more used to working with the smaller yarns. But when I get a chance to work with the chunky ones, I don't know, I just find it a lot more fun. It feels softer, and I just find that they're just giant and cute. But I do have like a lot of appreciation for when I make these ones as well. Like, if this was in the chunkier yarn, I don't think it would look as cool. So I think it depends on what I'm really vibing for the doll.
How is your family reacting to the fact that you became a crochet expert?
I think they're a bit like, what are you doing? Like, Zach, what is this adventure you've gone on? I'm like, I don't know. It was a hobby, and then I went with it. My sister loves it. She, like, I think for me, is it's not just the craft, is that I just really enjoy the content creation side of things as well. So like, the craft is part of that, but the entire like making this kind of online profile for myself has been so interesting. And my sister's really interested in that, and she always asks me about like the different comments I get from people and the different like weird chats you have with customers and whatnot. And so I just send her like the funny moments.
Well, do they ever make fun of you for being this Instagrammer and TikToker?
No, I think they're just confused.
My kids like always like laughing about this. Like, my son was telling me, I don't understand where I went wrong with you, because here's my mother is like on YouTube, and like he was working from home, and he was working in my office, and he had that subscribe, and he's actually works for YouTube.
Yeah.
But they were like in the meeting, and they were like, what's on your background? Why there is yarn on the background and the subscribe sign?
Yeah.
Well, my mother is a YouTuber, so for them it's like almost amusing that like I went with it, and like, I'm doing something on social media. So
so I haven't had like too much I mean, I think my family, my siblings and my parents have just been like, okay, just carry on. Just whatever is that, just carry on. The one I do find weird is it's actually in the dating game. So I'm single. And so but like, whenever I kind of like, when I bring up that I make dolls and I like make money from it and things like that, it isn't like the first thing that people would associate with me. And they're like, sorry, what? And then I showed them my TikTok and my Instagram, and they're like, where did this even come from? And I'm like, I don't know. It's fun though, just appreciate it.
You ever taught anybody how to crochet?
I I've taught a few friends. Yeah, I've taught a few friends. I would love to teach a bit more, but I always thought about doing like YouTube things as well, and what kind of path I'd go down with that. But I'm not a big fan of video editing, which probably comes from my yeah yeah. So I would like to do. I'd like to dabble in it, but I really just think being live and being myself is my way of doing things. That's why I went for like towards Twitch rather than doing YouTube, because then I would be just chatting.
Do you ever feel like you're spreading yourself thin with all the social media because you like on so many platforms?
So an interesting thing is that when I was early on, when I decided I really wanted to start growing this like more, one of my best friends was doing this like online social media course that was like $20, which is very cheap in New Zealand. And so he sent me the link and I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. So I started doing like some social media marketing training and I got some hot tips from that. I never finished the course. But from there, I remember them saying early on, like, don't spread yourself too thin. Know what you're good at. Know your pillars of marketing, like what your brand is, and really grow in those areas that you're like strong in. So that's why I've only gone to Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. I do have a Facebook page. I don't know how to use it that well. Not my forte, and so not that one. But I think sticking to those, like sticking to my guns on those three, that's where I'm thriving. So I may as well continue.
Right. What's your favorite, like absolute favorite thing about social media?
Oh, I want to say it's forever surprising me. I think with the way, like especially TikTok, the amount of audience that you can get from that, from just putting out something and the amount that you get back, it's overwhelming. And that, like, you never know what you're going to get back from what you put out. And I think that's the thing that it's forever surprising me with the range it has, the reach it has. Sorry.
Do you think you're addicted to the social media? Like if you had to lose your phone for a week, like would you go nuts?
So over the New Year's period, I wasn't able to use my phone for about 3 to 4 days, and I really relished in those moments where no one has connectivity to anything. Sometimes, like this is what I was saying before, that like when I kind of feel powerful by taking a stand over social media, like its grip on me and things like that. So I wouldn't say I'm like necessarily addicted, but I really enjoy using it. And like social media was really coming to power around, what have it been, like 2007? It was like the early like MySpace, Bebo, and then the start of Facebook, I think it was. And I remember back then I was really interested in it and really enjoyed all the things it was bringing and how it was connecting people online. So I've been there like from the kind of start of it, and I've always known and really enjoyed it. And you see all this dialogue about how it affects people's mental health and how it's like the negative impact it's had on the world. But I've always had such like a positive relationship with it, and I understand that there's negative parts to it, but I really enjoy it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Is there something that surprised you? And I know you just moved, but like, is there anything that surprised you about Australia that like you didn't expect?
Yeah, it is pretty new, isn't it? I think it's not like anything to do with like crochet or things like that, but the amount of animals that I didn't realize were here. Like I've never seen a crow before in my life, and I walked out of the supermarket and it was just this like, what is it called? It's called a murder of crows, isn't it? And I was just, oh my god, those crows! And I was like, and then like driving down from my sister lives here as well, and we're driving back last night from her house, and the family that were taking me back home. They're like, oh, better watch out for the kangaroos, you might hit one. And I was like, you guys hit kangaroos in the car? I was like, oh my god.
Well, do you think it's gonna improve, like increase your repertoire of what you're making?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like, I know, because whenever I've always had this idea of making like a big range of New Zealand birds, and I keep telling people I'm gonna make all the patterns. I will get there. But there's another creator here, Adele from Pro with the Flow, and she does like a lot of Australian animals. And so when I was early on in the TikTok game, she was there doing the Australian animals, and I was promoting New Zealand animals, and so we kind of connected there. And I feel like we've kind of just like claimed our boundaries on it. And I feel like if I started doing Australian animals, people were like, isn't that Adele's thing? And I'm like, yeah. But I live here too now. But yeah, but we're the same if she did New Zealand animals. I'd be like, isn't that what Zach does? Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see what else you're gonna create this year. I'm so glad you agreed to be on my channel. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we're gonna put also all the links to you under the description of this video so people can find you and hopefully follow you on TikTok, on Instagram and Twitch, and like Etsy, and buy some of your toys and help you out. I mean, is there like something, like if my viewers could help you somehow to like reach your goals, to make your dreams come true, what could they do?
The best way that people can support me is, I think it's more, I just like people interacting with the content. Like the more people comment on my things, I feel like I owe it back to other creators as well. And it's always like that pass it on kind of feeling. So the more that people comment on my things like, looks great, then I feel like I like doing it, but I also feel a bit more pushed to go out and push onto other people to say, looks great, looks amazing, well done. And that really like creates that whole community vibe. So if you're creating positivity and putting it out there on my things, then I'm going to push it back on other people as well. So that's the best way for me, I think.
Guys, go and comment and say hello. Say hello to Zach from Fiberchats.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Zach. Thank you for being my guest today.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, hold on.